et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if that's true, why is it that every time he makes some sort of statement along these lines, a wave of missile attacks comes out of Iran?
And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before, should have done it with us as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally.
Okay, we're going to go back to our panel of experts now. Henry, if I can bring you in to discuss what we do from allies that need the oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
This was the president who said, 1 year after I take office, your energy bills will be half, gas will be much cheaper, so you'll be able to fill your car more often than you do. And he hasn't delivered on that. Here we are, 14 months since he took office. And so that is a weakness for him, and that's maybe why he didn't spend so much time talking about it. Victories for the military will certainly stir the patriotism in most Americans, but it doesn't help put food on the table, and that is the thing most people will vote about, are concerned about, and want to hear from the president.
Yeah, David, obviously one of the other major issues is the Strait of Hormuz, and it doesn't really seem like there was any plan to try and get the oil flowing through there. In fact, he said in a message to the US allies, build up some delayed courage, go to the strait and just take it and protect it, use it for yourselves. The hard part is done. The rest should be easy. It will just open up naturally. What did you...
Well, a couple of things. He can't. I mean, he can't pull out of the NATO alliance unilaterally. He would have to get 2/3 of the Senate to agree. That's the thing that was introduced in the Senate in 2023. And actually, the senator that introduced it is now his Secretary of State to stop any president unilaterally drawing the United States out of one of the oldest military alliances in the world. He's goading, he's trying to goad his allies into doing something in the Strait of Hormuz, saying, look, we've got plenty of oil. We don't need to come through the Strait of Hormuz, but it's clearly something that has concerned them. And it also, as someone has pointed out to me, shows a lack of strategy. We were told that of course they knew that the Iranians would target the Strait of Hormuz. Of course they knew they would make that a choke point. And of course they had something that they could help to deal with it. But as it goes on day after day after day, it proves that actually the United States doesn't. They don't know quite how to handle this. And so for all the military planning that's going on, that's not something that seems to have been top of mind. It's not something that they thought would be a serious threat.
Commodities that are necessary for survival, necessary for the energy grid. And there is going to be a moment where this unstoppable force meets the immovable object. You can't manipulate the oil futures markets over and over again when people inevitably run out of oil. Because this is not just like a pure speculative asset. This is something necessary for the energy grids to operate. It's something necessary for agriculture to operate, right? When you don't have the necessary chemical compounds being delivered so that farmers during planting season get all of the fertilizer. When you don't have the chemicals or the necessary chemical compounds to develop fertilizer, you're not going to be able to get the same agriculture that you can access. Consumer goods commodities trader went on redundancy there. They don't have a contingency plan. So what do? When you don't have jet fuel, you don't have transport, okay? You don't have deliveries. This will cause unbelievable strain, unbelievable burdens on the European markets. People will not have access to goods. Eventually, if it gets really bad, then you can't even power your energy grid at all. There will be shortages. There will be rationing. Do you understand? All for what? So that America and Israel could successfully destroy a sovereign country with 93 million people without even taking into consideration what the aftermath of that looks like? It's totally ridiculous. It's totally belligerent. I don't think people comprehend exactly how bad it's going to get. It's very strange. Here in America, obviously we're more sheltered from the worst impacts. The lesser developed a nation is, the worse the impact will be felt. And America, by geographic proximity and through its own extractive force forces, its own extraction industries, is going to be able to shelter the American population to the best of their ability from the most consequential impacts of this energy crisis that is imminent. I do feel like, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, this is like giving early days of COVID, right? Like, oh, this problem's going to go away by, next month. This novel virus is like killing people and we don't know how to stop it. And it's like spreading at an alarming rate. And people are just like exhausting the limited resources that exist in these countries. And people are like looking into Italy. They're like, whoa, why are people in the hospitals? Like, why are they crowding these hospital beds, right? These facilities are being overloaded. And that's what it feels like to me. It's truly unbelievable the way that the American media is covering the issue. I mean, some people are obviously ringing the alarm bells, but the markets have not adjusted to the crisis that is coming.
Can you tell us more of what we've been seeing?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you mentioned the incident at the Khalifa Economic Zone in Abu Dhabi. A few days ago, or last week, people were injured due to debris from an interception in that same area. Just a couple hours ago, we heard the alarm sounding in Dubai. In Bahrain, multiple alarms have sounded throughout the night into this morning. Saudi Arabia, the Ministry of Defense there, saying they've intercepted 4 drones in the last couple of hours. They also reported an interception of a missile. So these attacks across the Gulf are happening on a daily basis. We talked about the tanker off the coast.
I think that those claims have to be dispensed up front. What I am hearing from people who are on the inside that I trust is perhaps reduced Iran's ballistic missile capability from 100% down to perhaps 70%. That their air defense is being very effective against the unmanned surveillance aircraft, selectively against other kinds of aircraft, but has not performed as well as they'd hoped. But they have always been willing to absorb the strikes. They've always known that their infrastructure would be brutalized, and they think the payoff is worth the trouble. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if things are going so well, and we've had so much success with the air and missile campaign, why do we want to introduce ground troops into the equation? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I don't think you're getting a truthful assessment from the U.S. side. I think the president is desperate. I think he faces public humiliation inside the United States as well as overseas if he admits the truth. And when he starts talking about, well, maybe I'll just leave and dump all of this into the laps of Europeans, we ought to stop and consider a few things. First of all, commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has fallen by about 95 to 97%. 15 million barrels of oil a day have been taken offline. The physical shortages have already hit so hard that right now Singapore jet fuel is selling at $231 a barrel. And as long as the war persists, the real people who shut down the Strait of Hormuz, who are not Iranians, they're sitting in London. They're called Lloyds of London. The insurance brokers aren't going to insure anything that goes through the strait right now because it's a war zone. So if you really want to open up the strait, you've got to stop the war. Simply passing an ultimatum to the Iranians and then turning to the Europeans, who were really never consulted on this whole business. Neither were the Japanese, neither were the South Koreans. I mean, frankly, we ignored all of our allies and simply acted independently in a way that we decided to act. And it was never really in our interest to do so. When you turn to a friendly country like India, you discover the Indians are apoplectic. Well, they do $180 billion of business and trade a year with the Emirates. Suddenly that's gone. And if we continue to destroy infrastructure in Iran, the Iranians have said, fine. If you hit our desalination plants, if you hit our oil infrastructure, we're going to turn around and obliterate everything in the Persian Gulf. So what does he plan to do? He wants to land troops on some islands, presumably. Right now, the United States Navy sails 500 to 800 miles away from the Gulf and stays on the move, cutting giant squares in the ocean because it doesn't want to be sunk. It doesn't want its ships on the bottom. How do you get the troops in there? Can you get close enough without being detected and without coming on fire to sort of put the troops in a position from which they can attack something? then how do you propose to attack wherever you want to attack? Can you account for all the potential air defense systems that might be there, including shoulder-fired missiles? Can you ensure that you've neutralized this brilliant network of intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms with strike systems that are all over Iran? And they're miles deep inside the country, anywhere from 10 miles to 200 miles to 300 miles. You know, all of these questions are never really answered. It's the big hand wave, oh, we're successful, we're brilliant, we've done everything right. These pesky Iranians are too dumb to surrender, but we think we've done enough damage. Now, from whom have we not heard? Who is really in charge? Israel. Why are we in this war? Because we suddenly decided that Iran was this satanic, evil element in the international system that had to be purged for anyone, anywhere in civilization to be safe? No, that's a lot of nonsense. We're there because Israel wants Iran taken off the board, which is the phrase used by the neocons in Washington. This whole thing was sold from the very beginning on the assumption that, first of all, this will be a short campaign. We would be surprised if they didn't fall apart in 96 hours. That's what I was told. Secondly, once we've taken Iran off the board, Israel is safe. It has no worries. It can bully the region. It can push its power and influence to the limits. And oh, don't worry about the Turks. We'll keep them under control. We're close with the Turks. Turks don't want trouble with us. They'll do what we say. So the attitude in Israel was fine. That we just need to obliterate Iran. And oh, by the way, if we do this right, we and you can move in and take control of the oil fields. Never mind Iraq, don't mind Syria, don't mind Turkey, forget those things, they're not important. And the Emirates, they depend on us for everything. So they'll do what we say.
Dr. Abbas Araghchi, Foreign Minister of Iran, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Your Excellency, there is a U.S. perspective stating that the negotiations are ongoing and that Iran has accepted the American conditions. What is your assessment of this Iranian position? How do you view it?
Negotiation in the literature of international relations has a specific meaning. Two countries sitting face to face, negotiating. Such a situation does not currently exist between the United States and us. However, countries sometimes exchange messages through other countries. This is not called negotiation, and this is what currently exists between Iran and the United States. We receive messages from the American side, some are direct, and others come through our friends in the region. Wherever necessary, we respond to them. Therefore, there is currently no negotiation between us. Claims made in this regard are not correct. The exchange of messages, which sometimes includes warnings from our side or points from the other side, is ongoing, but it is not a negotiation.
Where do the negotiations currently stand? Can we generally speak of progress, or does the situation remain complex on both sides?
We have yet to make a decision. We have many considerations regarding this matter. Our conditions for ending the war are clear. We do not accept a ceasefire. We are seeking an end to the war, not only in Iran but across the entire region. We seek guarantees that such aggressions will not be repeated, as well as the payment of compensation for the extent of the damages inflicted on us and on the people of Iran. At present, there is no ground for negotiation, and at present, there is no negotiation. Our position is clear, and at present, there is no ground for negotiation.
The stock market can be doing well. It doesn't mean that the economy is doing well. Presidents move markets. That's always been the case. And Donald Trump can do that more perhaps than any other president because of his love of social media. He posts on there more than any other president has. And that suggests that he knows something that the rest of us don't. And people always like to jump on that. Now, as you say, critics have been very critical of this approach. They say what he's doing is enriching friends and family because they know what he's going to send out next and they're able to get an advanced position on the market. But his supporters say all he's doing is being transparent with the American people, reaching a level that no one has ever done before. Here's the problem for Donald Trump. With all the positive messages that he puts out on social media about the economy doing well, people still aren't feeling it. There's a new poll out, even today, that says that his approval for handling the economy is at its lowest point ever. In fact, it's in Jimmy Carter realms. And that is really critical for Donald Trump. He's often criticized Jimmy Carter in the past. Now, he can keep putting out positive messages and he can talk about how this is going to be a very short war, but people aren't feeling the benefits. And until that happens, we'll always be wary of what Donald Trump puts on the social media when it comes to the economy.
Just on the fact that Trump seems to believe that he'll be able to walk away from the Strait of Hormuz and it will sort itself out. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I think it's very clear that the American public has learned a great deal about the Strait of Hormuz in the last month. And it is true that the American public understands that the U.S. does not get much oil or gas, for that matter, from the Strait. Although American farmers are very aware that they get most of their fertilizer coming through the Strait. But Americans also have seen that disruptions of energy coming through the Strait has caused U.S. energy costs to go through the roof. So there is a connection between the Strait being closed and the cost to Americans. So even if President Trump wants to say that whether the Strait is open or closed is indifferent to us, the American people realize that's not the case. But I think along with what Henry was saying, if we can get to some kind of a ceasefire and end to the hostilities, then I do think we will get to the point where something can be arranged to allow shipping again through the Strait. But the wild card might be Israel, because Israel has indicated that it has other goals that it is still seeking, so that even if the U.S. declares that its goals are met, it's not clear that Israel will agree that its goals are met.